The Cobbler is the new Adam Sandler film. And I always
know what you're gonna say. I know what you're gonna
I always
say.
go into these things and kind of hoping for the best.
Yeah.
Because Adam Sandler, I mean, goodness, worlds between him and Tom Cruise's career paths. But he, like Cruise, is someone who has done a couple of incredibly, well-formed dramatic roles recently. The one, of course, that everyone always quotes, including Mark, and it was a favourite of his, is Punch Drunk Love.
Love
with
it.
Thomas Anderson.
Yeah.
And also Funny People with Judd Apatow. I think that film has problems, but Sandler is absolutely not one of them. I think it's a great kind of very honest performance. Now, the interesting thing about The Cobbler is the concept behind it, though it's gimmicky, needn't have necessarily been all that bad. Sandler plays a New York cobbler called Max Simkin, who discovers a magical cobbling machine in his in the cellar of his shop. That means that whenever he repairs someone's shoes on that machine, he can slip his feet into those shoes and magically transform into them. Of course, playing on the proverb, to understand a man, you have to walk a mile in his shoes. So that's the premise of the film, and he gets this. He goes off on a few little escapades, and then it suddenly strikes him one evening when he's at home with his elderly, kind of senile mother, that he can possibly use this power for good. And this is the moment at which that dawns on him.
How was your day, Maxie?
It was good. It was really good. It was the best day I've had in a long time.
Good. You work so hard.
How was your day, Ma?
Better now that my Tatalo's home.
Yeah. Hey, Ma, let me ask you something. You ever wish you were somebody else?
I'm your mother. That's all I ever wanted to be.
But if you could do whatever you wanted to do, what would it be?
Have dinner with your father. That would be nice.
That would be really nice.
So I think you can hear from that clip, this isn't, a product of Sandler's Happy Madison conveyor belt style filmmaking. It's not a Grown-Ups, it's not a Grown-Ups 2. It's the director is Thomas McCarthy, who's made 3 really lovely little independent films. The Station Agent, The Visitor, for which Richard Jenkins was nominated for a Best Actor Oscar, and also Win-Win, which was that weird kind of Paul Giamatti high school wrestling thing.
Yeah.
It was quite charming. And, McCarthy wrote it and he directed it. So this is a pet project, it's shot like a kind of a film that's worthy of festival sort of awards consideration. And what's so very weird about it is that from this interesting premise where, Sandler could play somebody, he's misanthropic, he could be wandering around New York, getting in touch with people, sort of a little bit like Amelie perhaps.
Yeah.
The whole thing just under this kind of interesting skin just turns into the same old kind of crass, horrible, kind of repugnant Adam Sandler nonsense as usual. One of the first things he does when he learns about this secret ability is he borrows the shoes of a character played by Dan Stevens and then goes into Dan Stevens' apartment and tries to sleep with his girlfriend. And by obviously being disguised as her boyfriend, he finds her in the shower, and then it only gets called off, not because he has some kind of moral change of heart and realizes that what he's doing is completely repugnant. It's because he realises he can't take his trousers off without taking his shoes off first, and hence the spell will be broken. After that, he decides, let's go and have some fun on the streets. So he changes himself into a black man and goes to eat at a restaurant and then runs out without paying. And then he changes himself into another black man and menaces himself and menaces someone in the stairwell. And then when he has to, he's playing a black character, and then he realises I need to be more scared than a black character, so he goes to change into a transvestite. And you're sitting in the cinema thinking, is anyone else actually seeing this? What is going on here? This is not kind of a joke. It's not meant to be that the character is somehow racist or has these incredibly narrow worldviews. He's just changing into other people in order to kind of play down to these kind of moronic stereotypes.
Yeah.
What is doubly confounding about it is that this role seems to appeal to a comic performer because of that potential to play a number of different personas within the same movie. So, someone like, for example, Robin Williams would have done it on form. He would have done this very well because he's great at flicking between personas. Someone who's, else you might consider for Kristen Wiig as well. She's just great at kind of snapping from character to character. The way in which The Cobbler is staged, Sandler just disappears when he puts on a character's shoes, and that character ends up, being played for a large spell of the film by whatever kind of second tier, third tier performer or extra was wearing those shoes in the first place. So you've got a film in which Sandler is notionally the star, in which he's barely in it, and it just seems like this incredible squandering of this great premise. I think.
What do you think's happened?
I think there's a great story behind the making of this film, whereby what was originally a really kind of a fascinating conceit has just been bulldozed, possibly by Sandler's demands. And if he's coming on board, okay, I'll do the film, but in it I want to do the following things, which prove that I am still kind of sexually attractive and can be virile and kind of on escapades and all this kind of thing. It's just
he's that egotistical.
Well, look at the man's work. This is the kind of proof in the pudding is in the stuff that he normally makes, which is when these kind of layabout slobs become these saviour figures and don't learn anything about themselves and don't learn anything about other people. The transformations don't kind of tell him anything about the city in which he lives. It's just purely cosmetic. It allows him to, later on in the film, there's this plot about gentrification and they're trying to stop this rogue property developer bulldozing this old block of flats, and he changes into this old man, and there's all this kind
of... Funny that, because Tom McCarthy was one of the writers on Up.
Right, exactly. So he's someone who has this kind of pedigree of writing these kind of characters very well.
Yeah.
The less said about the ending as well. I mean, my word, it's like, you talk about a narrative painting itself into the corner. This is like he sort of paints himself into the corner of the Boeing factory and gets out by bulldozing down the wall. I mean, it just runs roughshod over everything else that has happened in the film. Any kind of last atom of sympathy you might have had for this character is suddenly just like immolated.
Wow.
And it's a total, I mean, it's easily one of the worst films Adam Sandler has made. I mean, that's saying something.
Oof.